Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is December 31st, 2018. By the time you see this, more than likely, you'll be recovering from some sort of terrible drinking incident, and it will officially be 2019. But, for everyone else, Happy New Year! Yeah, so this will be, of course, the last episode of the Stash Report for 2018. That'll make 44 episodes this year. Not too terribly bad. We look to try to make 50 a year because of the 2 weeks that Japan takes off in the spring and the summer and the winter. So we did pretty good. Obviously sort of fell apart here towards the end of the year with all of the issues trying to find some place to get videos uploaded from. So we'll see how 2019 goes in terms of getting them out on the weekly basis. Want to go ahead and let you guys know there will be no Stash Report next Monday. Basically, I would expect at best there to be 2 kits released between now and then, both of them AMT kits. The other Garage kit and the MPC Rat Trap Vega asphalt modified car. That's not enough to have me go through the whole rigmarole of setting up everything and videotaping an episode and everything. Japan is closed. Europe, not closed, but there's nothing coming out. So there's nothing really to discuss until Japan reopens on the 7th of January. For the most part, they're actually opening on the 5th of January, which is kind of odd for us. You know, Americans, we wouldn't think of a Saturday being when you come back from vacation, but a lot of places will open for that one day on the weekend before closing again on Sunday, and they come back in on Monday, just to sort of get a little bit of, leeway on what happened while everyone was gone for the week. So overall, it was a successful year for us. Channel, viewer count, not viewer count, but the subscription count has gone up this year, which is always a good thing. Didn't go down. So there are still plenty of you folks out there willing to listen to me blather on about new release model kits and things like that. So we, again, look forward to your support in the new year. So as far as this week's video goes, most of the releases we're going to talk about, of course, are Japanese releases, as the Revell stuff came out last week, and there's, like I said, the 2 other December round 2 kits have not come in before we went to video with this. So they may come out today on Monday, but I had to record this a little prior to Monday. It's actually Sunday night, and so if they come in today, oh well, tough. We will, of course, cover them next week when we do the video on the 7th, assuming that they actually show up. So we have one teaser on the domestic side of things to keep you guys sort of held over for the week. Things that you sit there and think about. And that is, this is the box art, the tentative box art for the upcoming Mobius 1966 Ford Flare-side pickup truck. So yeah, we've told you before, this will be the first of the Mobius release of these kits. The Model King obviously is going to be releasing the 65, I believe it is, with the service bed, which will be their first release. But the actual first kit that will make it to market is the 66 Flare-side. This is going to come with a 6-cylinder. Obviously, will ride the shorter wheelbase chassis. The chassis in these kits, the F-Series pickup trucks, are not going to change a terrible bunch, a terrible lot, if you will. That is sort of the one sort of stationary part of the kits. The 65, 66 through 72, obviously, pretty much all use the exact same chassis, running gear, drivetrain, and engine options. I don't know necessarily that the great big V8, the 390, was available in the earlier trucks. I just haven't bothered to look. Don't correct me. I don't care. But the 6-cylinder and certainly the small block V8 will be included, because the small block V8 is what will be coming with the service bed trucks. So just something to sort of slake your thirst and hold you over there. No real word on when that's going to come out, just other than sort of like first quarter or first half of 2019. Apparently, there is quite a bit of consternation between the ownership of Pegasus and sort of the automotive project people, as it were. Seems to be a lot of them really not wanting to spend money on that side of the investment. It is sort of generally seen through the rumor mill that Mobius is far more interested in the sci-fi and figure part of the business than they were in the actual automotive part of the business. The Ford F-Series pickup trucks will come mainly because they were already tooled prior to the sale of Mobius to Pegasus. So, I mean, it's already paid for. Why not run the plastic through it and get your money? So, sort of the old free money gag. You didn't pay to have this stuff done. It was already done when you bought the company. Be silly not to run the tooling. Other things that are already done would be things like the AFX, drag cars, and some of the other options for Pontiacs and Mercurys and things like that. The thing where this starts coming into a problem, of course, would be with the Chevy Nova and Chevy 2 that were shown last year prior to the sale. There's a little bit of rumbling going on that Mobius doesn't want to pay to actually have that stuff done. So, if you were so inclined, certainly won't tell you what to do. If you were so inclined, you might want to look up Mobius or Pegasus, Pegasus mostly, on the various social media platforms and through their websites, emails, and drop them an email and be like, hey, by the way, we'd like to see those Chevys done. Don't forget about the automotive side of things. It'd be a shame to really lose pretty much both of the active U.S. manufacturers through, sales in the span of 9 months. Because we don't really know what they're going to do with Revell on the U.S. side right now until some further information that ceases to reach the outside world actually comes to us in terms of what their plans will be. We've seen sort of the leaked information on the Revell Germany side of things that sort of hints at a couple of Revell U.S. releases, being that they'll have to be, their Revell tools, U.S. tools, in order to release them. They'd have to have a modified reissue of a Revell U.S. release. So, we'll see what really there is to talk about come midnight tonight, hopefully, into tomorrow. The Revell of Germany has always done their entire year's worth of releases, except for there would be a scattered bit of information like the first half of the first quarter, first half of the next year, right around Christmas, which we got. The only new piece of automotive tooling that was even in that, or even not new, but just that hadn't already been announced, was they're going to reissue the Bussing or the Busing heavy truck. That's been a little while since that's come out. That's going to be an expensive kit. The prices on those Revell Germany truck kits have just gone up really radically since they were originally done 10, 12 years ago. And then there is a Martini liveried tribute, because there is no Martini liveried Porsche of this kind, of a 934 turbo that's going to be done. So it's just a reissue of the Valiant and Jägermeister new toolkits that were done in 2016 with a Martini sort of tribute livery thrown in. Like I said, there was never an actual race Martini livery for a 934 turbo. So it's just sort of I've seen one online where it is a street car that's built to look like the race car with Martini livery on it, and I think that may be what inspired this project, but it's not an actual race car that ran. It's not, the Jägermeister car was a real car, the Valiant car was a real car. This is just something that has some decals thrown into a kit to release it again. So be very interesting to see what really is going to be coming in 2019, at least just in terms of the German side of things. That may give us a hint to the US side, and we'll see if there's not an actual US release done at the same time, perhaps. I'd rather they stay on the quarterly schedule that they were on the last several years. That was just convenient, rather than it being a, here's what we expect to come next year and good luck divining when it'll be here. But that was the way that Revell Monogram operated for decades. So, it's not exactly like there's a whole big thing. When the U.S. manufacturers stopped going to things like the Chicago Hobby Show and the New York Toy Fair, You know, all bets were off as far as there being like a spring release and a fall release information bonanza. Revell was just being like, hey, here's what we're going to do this year. Maybe they might show the advanced tooling, advanced prototypes, and things like that, like the Toledo NNL or something like that. Then it became, of course, the NNL East. We shall see where we're going to go with that. And again, you know, we'll have several. There will be several releases for Mobius, regardless of whether or not they decide to put any more money into it. Because again, like we talked about in the last video, everything is tooled at one time. So the tooling that's already done, the tooling that already exists, will almost positively see the light of day. It is just new projects past these Fords. So again, things like the Pontiac, things like the Mercury, those and things like the Plymouth, those don't count because all of those things would have been tooled already. These F-Series pickup trucks, the 65, 66s, the bodies, and all the things that make them the 65 and 66, again, were tooled right prior to the sale, so they exist as well. The Chevy Nova, the Chevy 2 Dragster were not done prior to the sale. So whether those will ever see the light of day or whether there will be any further automotive releases for Mobius and Pegasus beyond these pickup trucks and backfilling in all of the dragsters and things like that from the other chassis platforms really depends on you. Telling them that you're not satisfied with them just being like, meh, being a good answer. So, something to look at, look forward to, not look forward to. Perspective is yours on that. And so let's talk about the kit releases for this week. Again, just a few things that are coming out of Japan that sort of fill in the last of the holes in the plans and the schedules that were. Over at Fujimi, you got this, which of course is the new Tool Toyota FJ Cruiser. This is the black two-tone version. So this will be the third of the three as far as kit releases. Kit is molded in black, kit is molded in white, with some silver pieces for the bumpers and things like that. These are designed, again, to be snap-tight kits and to not need to be painted. It is molded in, not painted, so keep that in mind. You do have to paint it, you know, nominally speaking. Very interesting that they showed this box art with a blue one and a cream, olive, drab, beige, brown, whatever the hell you want to call that color in the background there. Desert yellow for the IPMS folks. Because that would make me think that there's going to be two more of these and they're going to be in those two colors that are in the background there, because obviously they were all white, yellow and white, and black and white, so this blue and white and taupe and white, you know, don't exist. Maybe further releases foreshadowed there. Obviously, we've seen a hot pink Toyota or Suzuki Hustler coming out in January, so we'll see what we get with that. That'll take us over to Aoshima. Aoshima just had two kits this week, two of the Game Center arcade trucks, however they want to put the little commercial trucks. So first you have this, which is, of course, the infamous Octopus truck, the Octopus sushi truck. These are built off the old 1980s Subaru Sambar chassis. So this is just a little wacky little stall that's selling you some octopus. Always a good time. There are, I think, 4 of these altogether. This is, you know, they said, selling you some octopus dumplings. I guess, technically speaking, these are not sushi, because dumpling is something you would cook. But yeah, what you see is what you get there as far as the crazy, bright decals, the open sides of this being a food truck and things like that. And then the second one is, I think, probably the one that a lot of people really like, is the Game Center, which is a sort of a little mobile arcade. You do get the little figure of a Japanese young man, it's hard to tell the age on this, that is driving the Oregon Trail F1 car game. There's the sort of combat war shooter game. There is a table game. Looks like it could be several different things, from a battleship. I have no idea what that middle one is supposed to be. And then there's like a table soccer game option there as well. So it looks like you put your money in whichever one you want to play there. A couple seats. There are video games for the other side, but what you see with the box art there is what you get quite literally with this, with it being all of the parts, all of the garish colors, the decals, the figure, driving the video games. I believe that you would only build it with everything hanging off the side of it like that. You can't sort of fold the video game up for transportation purposes. So that's just, again, it's a cool conversation piece. You build one and put it on the table at your model club. I guarantee you, you'll be the only one with it. Over at Hasegawa, 3 releases. 2 modified reissues, 1 new tool. First modified reissue is this. It is the 1987 debut season of the SAUBER Mercedes C9, so Group C car here. This would be a European vehicle. This was not raced in Japan in the 1987 series with the Kurokos team. There is a new piece for the front end that sort of flattens out the hood like you see on the box art. The Group C car from 88, 89 that they have a tooling of has a different sort of front air intake that was run later. So they basically created a new piece that sits on top of that. From the looks of this, it's hard to tell with the way the decals sit on the real car. I'm going to guess you need to put that in place and then smooth it into the surrounding bodywork rather than it being a piece that sort of comes off independent of the rest of the front bodywork. Their Group C cars are curb sides. They're very, very basic curb sides. So this, of course, there's nothing really new here other than the mirrors are new and that new front piece on the sort of front bonnet piece between the headlights. The other modified reissue is this, the 1972 Monte-CARLO Rally Datsun FAIRLADY 240Z. There are a number of new parts included in this kit. The car itself, that they're showing you on the box art, finished 3rd overall in the Monte-CARLO Rally, so it is a podium car. A lot of people didn't think that the front engine rear drive would work very well, especially in the inclement weather. They proved them were wrong with that assumption. Very, like I said, the lot of new parts in here. The whole front light setup is different because it's not the Safari off-road setup. But this is a left-hand drive specification car with left-hand drive parts, left-hand drive interior, wipers, all of those things had to be tooled up brand new for this kit because the 240Zs across the entire spectrum in Hasegawa did not come with an export spec drive setup. So all of those parts are new. As I said, a bunch of new interior parts, not only just the dashboard, but the console and things like that. The flip the side the parking brake is on and all sorts of things like that. There's, I believe, new wheels included in this as well. Basically, the whole front end surround is different because it doesn't have all of the bull rack parts for the off-road Safari pieces. So again, quite a few new pieces included in that. And then lastly, you have the new tool kit, which is the R9CP CALSONIC Nissan Group C car. So this is the 1991 season CALSONIC car. This would be your Japanese sports car prototype series champion for 1991. They won 3 races and they won the overall championship that year. So be interested to see what other variations they can do with this tool after it ran this way. There's also a European version, I believe. There's R90 that they're missing between the R89 and the R91, which technically the R90 is the R89 with some minor modifications to it, but again, they don't have a kit of it. So, brand new kit, curbside. It's a little more detailed in terms of overall parts content than their older 1990s era Group C cars. However, it is still a curbside. It's still in the 60 to 70 part range. The only really detailed engine piece to this is the transmission and transaxle section because that is seen through the back of the chassis. So that is included. You build the whole rear suspension off of it and things of that nature, but no engine, nothing like that. The body itself is in 3 different pieces. So that's kind of a little bit different. Should make painting a little bit easier in terms of the tritone because from looking at the decal sheet, there are no colors included. It's just words. So you're going to have to paint the blue, the white, and the red. And then last thing we have for this episode is the kit I think most of us have been waiting for, at least those of us who are really enamored right now with the Group B Rally. And that, of course, is the brand new tool BMAX LANCIA Delta S4. So this is set up to build any of the 3 cars that ran in the 1986 Monte-CARLO Rally. Only the box art car finished. The other 2 crashed out. The box art car did win, but be that as it may, the other cars did not fare so well. This is BMAX's first full detail 1/24th scale kit. They've done a couple of full detail 1/20th scale F1 cars. This is their first foray into full detail 1/24th scale. So this is, again, another 3-piece car as far as the body goes. The front bodywork is separate, the rear bodywork is separate, and then the actual passenger compartment itself is separate. From what I'm seeing, at least in the instructions of it, looks like there's 2 body cab parts of the body included. Something may not be tooled up right with one or the other. There's a Japanese notice about why there's a second body in there, but it's the picture of it that I've seen online is a little too distorted to be able to run through the Google image translator. So I'm assuming that it's this body is the one you should be using. Don't use the one that's actually attached to the runners between the front bonnet and the rear trunk area. Very nice decals, looks like, as far as that goes. Obviously, Martini liveried. For some reason, Martini is one of those things that even though it's an alcohol company, maybe because it doesn't include the Anna Rossi part, that they're allowed to use the Martini liveries everywhere. But it is, again, a very detailed kit. Complete full detail engine. This engine was turbocharged and supercharged. It is pretty much a very central part of the rear space frame of this vehicle, so leaving it off is not really an option. I'm trying to think if there's anything else really to say about the kit itself. You know, it's one of those things where until you see it in person, you know, it looks good. Now, how good it'll look in person is another question altogether. And the other thing that's included in, or not included, sold separately, is this, the Delta S4 detail upset. There are a number of things here. First and foremost are 3 sheets of carbon fiber. 2 of them are the sort of yellow basket weave. That is used for the bottom of the chassis, the top of the chassis, and the interior pieces. And then there is a more traditional, what we call a high-def black carbon fiber, and that is used for the rear wing, the rear inner fender wells, and several other pieces as well. It's not a complete and total carbon fiber set like you might expect out of Studio 27, but it is certainly a comprehensive enough one for this purpose, especially the parts that you don't have to try to paint the weird desert yellow, radium tan color. You can just put the carbon fiber on if you buy the detail set and save yourself trying to custom mix a weird color. 2 things I want to talk about as far as the photo etch set goes that are about this kit. 1, in this kit there are no mud flaps unless you buy the photo etch set, so keep that in mind. 2, there is, I think it's the oil cooler or the oil box, the filler box itself, a compartment for the front. I'm not exactly sure what that is necessarily, and then there is some tin work for the inner rear fender well areas that are only included in the photo etch. So if you don't buy the photo etch, there are no plastic parts to mimic those 4 pieces that are in the photo etch set. I know that sort of heads towards that new hobby thing with the M6 where there's no canards and no tow hooks or anything without the photo etch set. But be aware, just so you know, those aren't in there. And I really think if you never really dabble with photo etch and you don't want to go through 110 Dutz fasteners and you don't want to go through making your own seat belts, because there are decal seat belts, we want to do that. This photo etch set is almost worth the price of it being around $18, $19 for the carbon fiber decals themselves, as well as all of the mesh areas. The mesh that is included in the kit is your typical screen door mesh looking stuff, and it just doesn't look in scale. At least it doesn't look very good in the build-ups of this, that we saw for the hobby show that are featured in product listings. The mesh that is in the photo etch is a much finer mesh. It is a much more varied mesh. I mean, the mesh for the front grills, the mesh for the back grills, the mesh for the side intakes, and all that stuff are all different patterns and sizes in the photo etch set. If you just use the mesh that comes with the kit, the nylon screen door mesh, then all of the mesh is going to be uniformly one size and one pattern. So I think just if you only used, you know, 1.5 dozen parts on the decals, it's worth $19 to me. Because I really think that's, unless you build models specifically for box stock competition, I think even if you are a person, like I said, who doesn't play with photo etch, and you don't want to replace the fasteners, and you don't want to replace the tie-downs and the hood latches and all of the seatbelt crap, the antenna, which is going to be way more in scale than a plastic injection molded piece, and the carbon fiber and all of the mesh intake grills make the price almost required, especially if you want to put the mud flaps on, which again don't exist without the photo etch. So that, guys, wraps up this week's show. That wraps up the 2018 modeling season, as it were. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope you've enjoyed all of the episodes this year. Again, I want to thank everyone for their support. We're taking the week off next week. We'll be back on the 7th, and we'll see you guys on the other side.